You are watching. Pause. We pause for a second or two. How do we keep life coherent when so much is changing? This is episode 231. Whole countries power cut. Yesterday, the whole of Spain and the whole of Portugal and a piece of France had their electrical power suddenly cut. And the power was cut for many people for about 10 to 12 hours. So about half a day. And this has made big news because it is drastic that whole countries have their electrical power suddenly cut all at once. Such a large and complete area has the same infrastructure cut in the same moment. It is very drastic. And it would seem that nowadays much of our infrastructure that we take for granted and that we expect to function properly and predictably, it would seem that much of our infrastructure is controlled digitally. Is controlled by computers, by coding. And since this is the case, since whole countries' energy supply is run digitally, controlled digitally by computers, hence the whole country's energy supply can be instantaneously cut off, like we saw yesterday in Spain and Portugal. The emotional situation that we are talking about today in conjunction with this event is emotional situation, acute situation. It is denoted by a orange, yellow exclamation mark. Our acute situation is for all those times when something suddenly happens out of the blue that takes us by shock, that catches us off guard, that surprises us and scares us. It can also be potentially dangerous situations that occur instantaneously, suddenly, out of the blue. And the emotional skill of today's episode is specific skill tension, and it is specific. It is one of the 3 specific skills for our acute situation. And on the image, the Polaroid, you can see an image of me tensing up, really being tense in the eye area. Specific skill tension is about that oftentimes acute, potentially dangerous situations happen because all of us carry a lot of tension in our bodies and in our thoughts. And this tension is sort of looking for release. We do not wish to be tense, but we are. Sometimes more and sometimes less. The event that happened yesterday in Spain and Portugal mainly, it made people very tense, very fast. So during the morning, people were going about their day at work, schools, out and about. And then suddenly electricity is shut off about at noon. So from one moment to another, people's expectations are turned on their heads. And emotional skill acute is about that sometimes something happens that just drastically shifts our expectations. And the event yesterday, the power cut in Spain and Portugal, suddenly shifted people's expectations of what their day was supposed to be about. And yesterday was an example of how tension extremely quickly accumulated in people's bodies. So sometimes tension is accumulated slowly during a very long period of time. And at other times, such as yesterday, tension is accumulated like that. And also on top of that, collective tension for a whole nation, for 2 whole nations. Collective tension in a moment. And one example I saw in the news was that many Spaniards took to the beaches within an hour of the power cut. So strong was the tension that suddenly accumulated in people's bodies that they felt that they wanted to go to the beach and hang out and release some of that tension by engaging in some low-key sexual social activity on the beach to just self-soothe. And that was within just the first hour people took to the beaches. So this example we're talking about today, when the electrical power is cut for a whole nation in just a moment, or in a single moment I should say, it is an example of that tension can build up very fast. Very fast, and I'm putting emphasis on how rapid it happened. Just people's expectations were just turned, and people's day turned into an acute situation. And now, today, the day after, many people, myself included, are thinking about this event and what other parts of our infrastructure is controlled digitally. What other parts of our infrastructure can be shut off in a split second. From on to off. And this event definitely turns on our imagination. We start thinking about what else could be shut off like that. What else is fragile like that in our infrastructure? What else could build up tension in our bodies from one moment to the next? And it would seem that, yes, we have had computers and this digital kind of society for a few decades now, increasingly. But we have not yet seen that many disrupting events like the one we witnessed yesterday in Spain and Portugal. We are still quite inexperienced in what can go wrong with our digital society. And then what happens when something goes wrong. We are still quite new to this. So of course it creates fear. It makes us worry about our setup, about our future. And yes, our imagination gets up and run. So then that creates this sort of emotional climate when we start expecting acute situations to happen. We can grow hypervigilant and sort of become tense, specific skill tension, from the sheer expectation of something acute happening. And that kind of hypervigilant tension can become quite paralyzing, and it consumes a lot of energy from us to be always on the alert, waiting for something drastic to happen. There's a lot of that right now in our day-to-day life, that we expect something big and dangerous to happen, and it creates a very pessimistic feeling throughout our body. Very tense, it's not very fun to be spontaneous when we have that much tension inside. We feel rather that we must plan for any potential contingency. And it's draining. Expecting acute situations and doing it every day is very draining. It's very tough to be us when that is the case. So we pause for a second or two and recognize that it's tough. The feeling in our bodies is not very nice, with this tension of expecting acute situations to happen. It's uncomfortable, feeling worried in our gut, feeling tense in our shoulders, in our muscles, feeling tense in our face, like on the picture here. It's tough. And to have it like that every day. We just pause for a second and recognize the effort that we are putting in, just being on the alert all the time. That's it for today. Thank you.